music has been more competitive and where new music stinks so bad as it does today with all the AI and the fiddling around with whatever they're doing and then calling it music. Just because it has a beat doesn't mean it's music. And these people are taking credit for writing music when it's an AI writing the music. They might throw a few lyrics into the mix and say, "What can you give me?" Oh, next thing you know, you've got an entire song. Sometimes they're blending the AI vocal in with theirs. I do a lot of writing and I sell short stories and I've got some books out and stuff. And he told me that he had a band, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, you've got a band? I didn't know that." Yeah, he goes, I knew you had a band. I saw you online." He didn't really know who I am, other than I write short stories. But anyway, he started explaining to me how he hired the most professional musicians he could out of California, and he worked really hard on these vocals. And he said, "I'll sing you some tracks." Every single track was AI.
Hey, this is Dale Thompson with Bride, and you're watching Rock and Metal Faith. Rock!
Today on the Rock and Metal Faith podcast, we speak once again with Dale Thompson of Bride. We get to dive into his thoughts on the music scene and some of the ideas behind some of the Bride songs.
With electric guitars, the heavens shake through everywhere for our souls awake. This is rock and metal faith. The thunder roars, his name is praised. Through light and dark, his love will fade. Forever loud, rock and metal faith.
So like I said, today we are joined once again by Dale Thompson, frontman and lead vocalist of Bride, as well as many other projects. How are you doing today, Dale?
Good, good. Just battling rain here. We have crazy rain coming through. So
Yeah, so you announced recently that Bride is coming to an end.
I'm coming to an end with Bride.
What led you to that, Dale?
Um, if D. Snyder hadn't have said it, I probably would have given you a different reason. But I'm just going to steal his reason for stopping Twisted Sister or stopping his performances. It's just I don't want people to see a shell of a guy that they used to listen to live. I can still do the studio stuff, but the live stuff is not as easy as it used to be. So, and people expect a certain energy on stage, and they expect for me to remember the lyrics. So, so you get to that point to where all the props that you put around you, you realize if you took them away, people would be like, "Oh, that's kind of a bummer. Feel a little bad for that guy." So I really don't want to do that. I want to go out on a high note. Huh, cliche, high note. But anyway, yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Actually, I think there's a lot of people need to realize when it's time to hang up instead of carry on past what they're able to do. There's a few out there in the scene that try to carry on a little too long, I think.
Yeah, and I'll still do some recording. I'm going to record with a German band, Adorn Graves. I don't know if I'm doing the whole album, but I'm going to record with them coming up. I've got albums coming out with Ordained, Theothrone, Boondogs, We Are Resolute. So I've got 4 or 5 albums coming out just this year. We've got a couple of shows booked, farewell shows. One's a big festival in Germany, and we've got a couple of shows booked here in the States. Actually, as of today, I think we've confirmed a couple, and then we'll just play out the year, and then I'll just move on to whatever's next. But Troy and I, our idea is to continue to record and to release a song every once in a while. But they just put a song out there, and if somebody likes the song, they can buy it off of whatever streaming network or whatever. But as far as putting out albums, we're not going to sit down and do an album. That's for sure. And the touring is going to stop as well after this year.
So Dale, you said you do German stuff. Do you sing in German as well?
No, no. It's just like when we go to Brazil, I don't sing in Portuguese, or Mexico, I don't know Spanish.
Oh,
They
okay.
they know our music. The first show that we did in Brazil was in Sao Paulo to about 80,000 people, and the whole crowd was singing our stuff, but they didn't speak English, but they had learned the songs by watching the build up and listening to our songs before we got there. So that was quite cool. No, I couldn't learn another language. I've actually tried.
I was just gonna say that that had to be a curve, like you know.
Yeah, we always use translators to speak to the audience and stuff. We just played not long ago in Mexico with Jamie Rowe and Mike Drive, John Schlitt, Les Carlson, and Jamie was the highlight because he sang half his set in Spanish. So when he did that, it was like, okay, if this was a beauty contest, we just got crushed. So
Yeah, I know there's a few Guardian albums that were actually recorded or re-recorded in Spanish, but yeah, that sounds like a stellar lineup. Jamie Rowe, Les Carlson, and
John
man, that would
Schlitt there, yeah,
yeah, would have been a great show.
Michael Drive. Yeah, that was great.
So is the new projects similar to what you were doing with Bride, or is it completely different?
Bride has its own unique style. I mean, we play what I would consider like groove rock with a bit of progressive music thrown in, but some of the other stuff, matter of fact, is like the Theo Throne is heavier than Bride, and uh, the Ordained is more rock, straight ahead rock, like the '80s rock thing. Then of course, the German one that I'm doing, I've it slipped my mind. Anyway, they've got a real German sound to them, so it's a lot of different aspects. But I mean, it's all rock, but it's just different levels of aggression, I guess.
You said too, in regards to your retirement, that you made a post that it has lost its fun. It's not fun anymore. Is it the? As it sounds like you still like writing and singing, so I'm guessing it's the business side that's lost its fun.
No, I don't get a lot of enjoyment traveling at all. I don't want to travel anywhere at any time. I've been there, done that. We've been all over the world throughout these 40 years, and I'm tired of going to airports. I'm tired of being on planes. I'm tired of long road trips to shows. Because when you eventually have to admit your age and what I've put my body through throughout the years with just not music, because I was the guy that would stage dive or jump in a mosh pit and all that. I was also boxing, and I was doing heavy weights as a power lifter. So over the course of time, your body just gets worn down. Your mind still says you can do it, but like if you drive 6 hours in one direction, and then you have to do a sound check, you have to do a meet and
Yeah.
greet, you have to sit through two bands because the promoter thinks you need to be at the auditorium to watch the two bands play instead of getting some rest. And then you play, and you're not out of the venue until midnight to get up in the morning at 6 o'clock to go home. Uh, yeah, those days, that's for people a lot younger than I am.
I hear you there. We're all getting older and slowing
Yeah,
down, I
we
think.
are. Yeah.
Have you noticed your audience change? Do you attract younger fans as well, or are they just all getting older with you?
As a whole, they're just aging with me. It's kind of funny because I'll because every day I go on, I wish people happy birthday that's got their birthdays coming up, and I'll see like 65, 77, 78 years old. I was like, holy cow, man, we're playing like a geriatric audience. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
like they got a whole nursing home full of people. It's like, hey, come out to the nursing home. We have a piano, you know. That's not what I want to do. So, and to pick up new, right now, there's never been a time where music has been more competitive and where new music stinks so bad as it does today, with all the AI and the fiddling around with whatever they're doing, and then calling it music. Just because it has a beat doesn't mean it's music. And these people are taking credit for writing music when it's an AI writing the music. They might throw a few lyrics into the mix and say, "What can you give me?" Oh, next thing you know, you've got an entire song. And sometimes they're blending the AI vocal in with theirs. I was I do a lot of writing and I sell short stories and I've got some books out and stuff. And one of the guys that I was writing short stories for his podcast, he told me that he had a band, and I'm like, "Oh wow, you've got a band? I didn't know that." He goes, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, I knew you had a band. I saw you online." He didn't really know who I am, other than I write short stories. But anyway, he started explaining to me how he hired the most professional musicians he could out of California, and he worked really hard on these vocals. And he said, "I'll sing you some tracks." Every single track was AI.
Yeah.
Recorded over 2,000 songs in my life, and I know what organic and raw is compared to he probably did that album in 20 minutes, just pumped it in and gave it to me. There was no slaving over rehearsals and changing parts and trying to remember and rewriting lyrics, and then you get
Yeah.
in the studio and then you're bouncing sounds around and it's not right. You don't know why this isn't grounded and why you're getting feedback. I mean, to me, that's the beauty of recording is getting all of that mess together and making sense of it. But if I push a button and say, "Give me a Nickelback song," that's not cool at all.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I don't mind an AI song. Just don't say it's something you recorded. You may have created it based on your parameters that you put in, but you didn't do anything except push a button. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think AI is taking over too much. It can be useful as a tool and get ideas maybe. I know I'm talking about creating music. I use it a little bit in the researching with this podcast here, but I try and keep the AIs down to a minimum and do as much as my own research as possible.
Well, it's like with my short stories that I write. I've got a whole series called Tales to Terrify, and it's a 6 book series now. It was three, but three more books are coming out this year, and it's horror mixed with mystery mixed with Stranger Things meets Twilight Zone meets Outer Limits. So it's a lot of fun stories and things. And I use Grammarly for my punctuation because I'm terrible with punctuation. Um, Most of the time I don't know when to move a paragraph, so it does it for me. But as far as the ideas for the stories, I actually plot them out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a story. So here's scene one, here's scene two, here's scene three. Now I'm going to just work on one scene at a time. And then when that is done, put it into Grammarly and say, okay, show me my mistakes, what I need to fix. And it'll be like, you need a comma here. This is spelt wrong. You need a capital. And that's what I use the Grammarly for. In other words, it becomes an editor that I get for like $10 a month compared to a professional editor that I'd have to pay, probably $120 a story or something to
Yeah.
to edit for me. And they probably are using Grammarly anyway. So
Let's talk about how the music scene has changed over the years. You started, Bride was back early '80s, and even before that with Matrix. Back then, it was important to have a label. Now labels not so needed anymore, and everybody's doing their own thing. Yeah,
that's true. Um, well, I'll just take it one step further. When the record companies had us, they were ripping us off and we weren't making any money, but we were selling a boatload of albums. Now we're making no money and we're not selling any albums because we don't have record companies. We got what you call distributors that take your stuff. So nobody's selling any albums. They will tell you they are, but they're not. And they'll tell you they got 2 million streams. They don't have 2 million streams. When you start looking into it, there's a whole system involved to build your streams up. without actual having it streamed. So when people were telling me they did 200,000 of this and 200,000 of that or whatever, 90% of the time it's not factual. It might be truth as it is portrayed, but it's not factual truth. And I just know that I went from selling 100,000 albums down to 50,000 albums, down to 20,000 albums, and now if we sell 2,000 albums, we're happy. Uh, the last album we printed up 1,000, and we barely sold them all. So that was a good sign to me right there. What happened to the 199,000 people that bought snakes on the
Yeah.
playground? Did they die, or they die? Everybody got old age. What happened? They kill off. They mellow out. They're chilling now. They're listening to the Randy Stonehill now. They don't want the heavy stuff. It's hard to determine what's. I mean, people change and stuff. You get grandkids, so you get kids, and you got obligations and stuff. But yeah, the support at the shows are down, and I'm guilty of it. I don't go to many rock shows because I don't like to be in the crowds. I don't like I would rather enjoy something on my television and say, let's pull up so and so tonight and watch this concert, and then I can pause it and go to the restroom. I don't get bumped
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, you go to the concert. To me, concerts, unless they got really comfortable seats and everybody's sitting, I'd rather not be there because I can't stand for 2 hours and watch a show.
Yeah, I hear
I think
you.
the last show we saw was, I think me and my wife, we went and seen The Killers, and I was quite happy. I was up in the nosebleed section, and it was great because there was very few people around, didn't have to worry about it. I looked down on the floor where people were standing. It just looked like a bunch of ants crushing one another. I don't know how anybody has a good time with that, but that's their thing, but not
Yeah,
mine.
that's right. How do you think as an artist when you're up there performing? What about the people who everybody's got a cell phone now, right? They can record you
Well,
from the
it used to be taboo to record a band, so if somebody
yeah,
brought in their video camera or something, you'd say, no, you can't shoot. But
yeah,
now everybody's got a phone. And there's no way to stop it. And if you're having a bad performance, they're gonna post that just because they were there, and they'll be like, "Ah, man, I went and seen Bride," and it was like one of those shows where it just wasn't that good,
uh-huh,
and it's out there for everybody to see. You used to try to make yourself look bigger than you are, like when we did the Metal Mission video with White Cross and I think Novella and Soraya. We went out to Oklahoma. We pretended it was our tour bus. We pretended this. We pretended that. And we shot this big video like we were on tour together, but we weren't on tour together. But it looked like it. So people really got into that video. I was like, "Yeah, man, bring that tour into town. We'll come and see it." Well, the bus was rented. It wasn't any of our buses. We got on the bus. We did our camera thing. We got off. Um, then they took us by a big swimming pool. I think it might have been in a hotel we weren't even staying in. And we're sitting by a pool like, "Hey, we're living the life. This is great.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Jesus rocks." But it was all fake. So now with the camera in your hand, you catch every mistake, every stumble, every bad note, and you can't go back live and fix that. The last show
right.
we played, I screwed up a psychedelic super Jesus when we started, and I was just like, "Stop." I said, "They didn't come to watch me screw up. Let's start the song and do it right." And I would have never done that in the past. And it wasn't so much for me, it wasn't so much an ego thing at that point, or maybe somebody was going to post it. It was me saying, let's give these guys what they paid for. I need to pay attention to what I'm doing and remember my lyrics. And then we started the song and finished it for them, and everybody was into it. And we did it. It was the encore. I mean, how embarrassing is to screw up the encore?
Oh, it happens. I've seen actually even mainstream secular bands do that on a recorded performance. Script the song, stop
Yeah,
it, and then restart. So you're not the first, and you're not the only
yeah,
ones.
yeah,
But yeah, we're talking about the music scene today, and we're talking about you had the labels giving you money, you owe them that money back, and trying to sell records and stuff. I think with today, without the labels though, and everybody getting music online, it's kind of fragmented the audience. Back when we had labels,
yeah,
it was the labels saying this is what's in, this is what's popular, and everybody gravitated to that. They gravitated the hair metal scene
yeah,
when that was in. They gravitated the grunge when that was in. and now everybody's fragmented, that everybody's listening to everything, but they can't pull the resources towards one trend anymore.
Yeah.
Well, what I see happening too is that anybody can record now, and you're getting so much really honestly bad music. I mean, I'm not a fan of thrash, or the growling thing, or this screaming vocal, especially when the chicks are doing the gravelly thing. And I can't
Oh yeah.
deal with it. It makes no sense to me. It's like, you're doing music that cave people probably enjoy, but I want to hear a good song. And some of these people can actually sing, but they're doing that vocal anyway. I mean, they can hate me if they want to for that statement, but I have a lot of haters, so it doesn't matter. But I just think it was so much cooler when we had labels, because it meant something, that you had to be extraordinarily good or something to get the attention of the masses. And now what's happened is the masses, like you said, are fragmented, and they're picking up albums, and they're called. It's like the emperor's new clothes. It's like there's people who are saying that's fantastic, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like,
And what? Yeah.
horrendous, man. It's like everything about that there's no hooks, the vocalists can't sing, the guitar player's out of key, the
Yeah.
drummer's losing time. It's like, uh, but anyway, I mean, God bless everybody who wants to play music, but not everybody is being called to.
Not everybody is called. Yeah.
But there's more bands now, and here's the problem: is that bands today, or even of yesterday, very seldom
Mm.
supported other bands. Like I don't rush out and buy Les Carlson's music, though I love Les Carlson and love his music. And Les probably does not own a Bride CD. And we don't hold it against one another. But whenever everybody is a musician, uh, nobody's buying any albums. I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely nuts that I mean, in the old days before I was really uh professional musician, I had loads of albums. I was buying everything. I had Messiah Prophet, Leviticus, and Jerusalem, and Resurrection Band, and Petra, and I mean, you name it. I had every album known to man. And then I haven't bought an album in 10 years at least. And I think the last one I bought may have been a Leonard Cohen album. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so it's it definitely wasn't heavy metal. So
Right.
So when Bride started, what was your influence?
well, my influence has always been Ronnie James Dio, Steven Tyler, Robert Plant, Ian Gillan, Bruce Dickinson. Later on, Rob Halford. For whatever reason, I just missed Judas Priest in the beginning and didn't give them the time of day, and that was a mistake because later on I realized that guy can really sing. And then of course you listen to a lot of radio. So back then you had AM and FM radio, so you were influenced by a lot of stuff. But with Troy and I, because we're brothers in the band, we were listening to the same stuff. I tended to take things a bit heavier than he did. Of course, we loved Queen and REO Speedwagon and Styx and Kansas and those bands. But I wanted to take things a bit heavier, and I think he was looking for the hook, so we compromised. Because I mean, he's got Hall notes in his collection, and I don't. Uh, Troy likes yacht rock. I don't. So we meet in the middle, of what we think we can do, and you try to write within your skill set. I mean, I can't sit down and write it. I couldn't sing a Journey song if a gun was put to my head. So and some people can just nail it. So you just do things that's in your wheelhouse, but yeah, I just think that we were influenced by what was happening in the late '70s and '80s, and we grew up on country music, so we could have been country artists instead. And funny, there's no such thing, I don't think, as uh, Christian country music like Christian rock music is. I think you got country music guys that play some Christian songs, so I don't know how we didn't get the country music Christian thing going. But anyway, I guess they can kill two birds with one stone by just pretending to be wholesome. I don't know.
And well, now that's starting, right?
Is
The
it?
Christian country. Yeah, there's a big movement on all of the platforms to try to get artists out there. Some of them is pretty good from a vocal standpoint. Some they can really sing, and
Well, I actually do country better than rock. Maybe I need to shift gears and look into
There you
that.
go.
No.
I know. Aaron doesn't like country, so we could just
I
move
don't
on.
I don't
Yeah.
mind it, but this is not the country metal or country faith podcast. This is rock and
We
metal
can
faith.
make it the Christian rock, metal, country, blues, you know?
There is a style of country. I do like dark country. It's a type of stuff that can be played in a very heavy western. And I do blues music. You know, I've got the Boondogs as a blues band. We've got 4 albums out. I do like
Yeah,
the
I've listened
blues,
to
but
some of that stuff. Actually, the Boondocks are good.
we got a new album coming out too. So it should be out this year. Boondogs vinyl too. So if somebody wants to
Right.
buy a vinyl, it's only on vinyl. So
Yeah, our problem with new music or buying music from American artists is we live in Canada, so we got to pay exchange and the shipping rate, making it double the price.
yeah, yeah. I ship stuff to Canada, and I just hate when I have to tell them this is what it's going to cost you. You know, I mean, if album, you could use it like a frisbee if you could find a crossing and try to give it a toss over.
There you
We
go.
should start doing some drone stuff and hope we didn't get shot down, you
That'd be
know, but
awesome.
yeah, we
Uh, uh,
need to get some stuff up there.
I mean, I understand things cost, they get caught, but it just makes things a little cost inefficient for us trying to buy this stuff.
You know, everything right now is outrageous, so
Yeah, and the comment about Christian music or Christian rock versus Christian country, it actually sounds like a post George Okoa had made there. He said, "Why do we have to call it Christian metal? Why can't we just call it good music or wholesome,
yep.
inspiring music or something like that?"
Well, whoever come up with that whole thing of Christian rock, the term,
Yeah.
uh, was a moron because what you do is you say, "I'm doing songs for Christians," so the rest of the people is excluded from it, and those are the people you're supposed to be trying to reach
Reach.
with the
That's
music.
right.
So
Yeah.
whoever coined that term Christian rock, he should have been stopped like Hitler should have been stopped because he's done a lot of damage. So
Yeah, I think Striper probably had the right idea. They got signed to a mainstream
Yeah.
label,
That's right.
tried to avoid the Christian metal term, but continued to write faith-based lyrics, and everybody knows that. If you're a fan of Striper, you know what you're going to
yeah.
get on the next record. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's like Skillet. I mean, and Red, they had some good mainstream success. MXPX had some good mainstream success. But yeah, people kept telling us you should go secular, and I'm like, how do you do that? Where's the crossroads? And what's the devil look like? I never could find him to do that. So I just stayed as the Christian. So
right.
Right. That's good. That's good, Dale. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I just did. You know, I looked for him, but he wasn't there. So
Yeah. Right.
One post there when you're, I think, doing live answering questions, but you talked about when the album Drop first came out that it got a lot of flack, and then now people look back on it and give it more respect than when it first came out. Do you think that was just the change in musical direction between Scarecrow and Drop?
yeah, because it shocked people. That's not what they wanted to hear when they paid good money for a Bride album. They didn't want to hear, you know, John Cougar Mellencamp. You know, they wanted to hear Metallica, and
Yeah.
we go from this heavy sound, and next thing you know, we got djembes and bongos and tambourines galore, and the whole mood of the music changed and everything. We put a couple of rock songs on that particular album, and we thought that would tie people over. But because the harder songs didn't sound as good as the acoustic sounding songs did, like "Personal Savior" is a great song, I think, but
Mm.
the mix of that song, uh, it it took something out of it. It's much heavier live, and we didn't capture where we wanted to be heavier on that album. The engineer, he was trying to keep things kind of everybody on the tone it down a bit on everything, and we probably should have said, "Hey, this song's supposed to be heavier," and then we could have beefed the guitars up and thickened the drums a bit. But as far as Drop goes, I thought it was a superb album. Once people listened to it more than once, they started catching it. They started getting it, and uh, and then people started writing to me apologizing. Even reviewers, some reviewer said, "I gave you 6 stars when you did this album, and I'd give you a 9 on it now that I've had time to listen to it." It's like Well, that would have been handy at the time. Record company wouldn't have went bankrupt if you would have,
Yeah. Well, the reviews sometimes is tough. I actually, for I don't know, a couple months there, did online music reviews. Had to drop it because they were asking too much of us, and I didn't have time to absorb the album and give it a fair review. I only had time to listen to it once or twice and go, okay, what are my quick thoughts on this? But sometimes, yeah, you need time to really absorb it and listen to it. Drop was one I liked. Ones the following ones, the Jesus Experience and Oddities, was ones that threw me for a loop. Basically, because I wasn't into the grunge scene and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, people call those grunge, but if you listen to some of the songs on there, they're heavy as anything on Snakes. I
Mm,
Found God is a song that just rips, and Love Hate is another one of those songs that's just screaming hard rock. And
yeah.
but what happened was is the record company decided, "Let's push the song The Worm, and let's push on the other album, let's do Under the Blood." Well, that was 2 more grungy sounding songs, but we also wanted to make sure that if this grunge thing took off, we weren't left in the dust. We When we first started, we were doing almost thrash music. It was borderline thrash at times, and that's not a direction that we would have had any success in past the 3 albums that we done. That's why we changed gears on Kinetic Faith, is because nobody was booking us. We play Cornerstone, and we might play another festival, an occasional show out in a cornfield somewhere, but nobody was like booking us like crazy, even though the metal dudes love those albums, the double bass and the crazy guitar solos and stuff. But when we come out with Kinetic Faith, well, actually, everybody knows my name changed everything for us. The song went 18 weeks at number 1 on the rock and metal charts. Then we released Same Old Sinner, and it did like 15 weeks in a row at number 1. And next thing you know, we've got a record company seriously interested in us. They were 2 songs that was placed on a best of album. Star Song thought they would just, we'll buy Bride stuff. We'll have them do 2 new songs, and we'll do a best of, and we'll call it a day. But they couldn't deny the fan support that we had in those days. So they went ahead and signed us to a contract, a record deal, and that launched us big time. We had clout because we were with a record company. We had voting power within the industry because they had a big delegation of people that belonged to GMA. So we were playing shows with For Him, Sandy Patty, uh,
Oh,
uh,
wow. You know you're big with Sadie Patty, right?
yeah, Sandy Petty told me that I sounded like somebody that had just stuck his hands in some scalding hot water.
Sandy, Patty, and Bride. Could you imagine that?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, she had no idea who we were. I only knew who she was because I sold her albums when I worked for Zondervan Family Bookstore. So,
Yeah, that's wow. That's quite the contract to go from slow to, you know.
it is quite the contrast, and the little story about Margaret Becker. We opened for her in Norway, and on the way back to the hotel, she told me she'd never have us open for her again because the people were chanting "Bride" throughout her whole entire set, and she hated it. She's up there doing her thing, and she's sounding great, but the crowd wanted to mosh. So it was,
That's awesome.
yeah, so it was all good for us and bad for her.
I always wonder, like I'm a late listener to Bride, and it didn't really grab me compared to now when I like early this morning I listened to Personal Savior. I was like, why didn't I hear this then?
Mm.
You know what I mean? I thought, wow, like you
It was
guys are,
out. I know you got airplay. I'm sure it got airplay around
Well,
here, anyways.
yeah,
I think our last 4 albums are some of the best work that we've done. I think, Vipers and Shadows, uh,
yes, that's what
it's
I'm.
it's just brutal from front to finish. We made sure that we didn't have any throwaway songs on that album, and, Here Is Your God, I mean, I listened to part of that just the other day just to see if I had been lying to myself, but that's an awesome album. Sometimes you look back, I mean, there's only a couple albums that I question why we didn't do them different. like Incorruptible for one. I didn't nothing about that album. The whole vibe is wrong. Skin for Skin, even though it's got some good songs on it, just the nightmare it took to do that album. That was an uphill climb. I mean, when you fire your drummer on the first day after you do weeks of rehearsal for the studio, and you're sitting in a studio by the hour, and you have no drummer now because you fired him. So we had to find a drummer to finish the album. So luckily, our bassist knew a couple drummers, and they split up the album so they could learn one half and one learn the other half. So something to that degree, yeah.
I guess from a listener standpoint, when that happens, is there a long period of like rehearsal? You have to go 3, 4, 5 months rehearsing the tracks, or were they ready to come in and just do it right away?
Well, on that particular album, the band had rehearsed those tracks endlessly. We had a lot of pre-production, and so we all knew them. So when the drummers come in, they could chart it out. They read tab, so they would just tab out their parts, and they would just play along to the parts. We'd rehearse the song once or twice, and they'd say, "Let's take it." And almost every time they got it on the first take. They were brilliant drummers. These guys. We when we used to do albums, we would slave away for weeks at a time, 2 or 3 rehearsals a week, writing songs. Troy and I would bring an idea in, like a riff, parts, vocals, melody, and then we would say, "Okay, guys, this is what we're hearing." So the bassist and drummer at the time would add their style or whatever into the songs. Troy and I were very careful about who wrote what, and because we were the main songwriters, so you had to have a really good ideal that Troy and I both voted yes on for the your ideal to make it into a song. And that was just not that wasn't a control thing. It was like Bride was our baby, and you see where we're at today. Troy and I are Bride, and we now have in America anyway. We have Frank Portapillo playing bass again, and he was our early bass player. And then we have Mike Loy, who played in the middle of Bride's career on "This Is It" and "A Fistful of Bees." He's back with us, playing drums. So we just wanted to make sure that Bride was Troy and I, and always was Troy and I, and where any confusing came in with maybe one or two of the other band members is, I guess they thought they were more than more than what they were in the band, even though they were just playing drums and bass. And a couple guys, they took offense to that, but you know,
Mm.
it was Troy and I was taking all the risk, and it was they never put no money into the band. We were the ones going it with having shirts screen printed, picking up CDs. We were the ones, organizing all the mailings. We were the ones organizing the tours. So, it was always Troy and I.
Sounds good. You talked earlier about the first best of there that brought on, was it Same Old Sinner and Everybody Knows My Name there. Those are actually great songs. I got into Bride with
Yeah.
Snakes and kind of went back. I think that was one of the first ones I picked up going backwards type of thing. What were the thoughts behind writing those songs?
Well, Snakes in the Playground, we knew that it was going to be a big album. We had a lot of momentum going into it. We already had lots of dates booked that we were going to, because we were doing about 100 dates a year at that time. And the songs just were sounding so incredible in the studio that it's like people cannot overlook this album. This is a monumental album. This is a big album, even in the Christian or secular mindset. So for like 1991 or 1992, whenever it came out, it really launched our career, and we had some momentum because we went on tour with Stryper. That was the first tour that we did with Stryper. So we did that tour, and at the end of the tour, Michael Sweet decided he was going to leave Stryper. I guess he had already been talking about it. Um, Robert asked me if I would like to be the singer in Stryper, and I'm like, "Oh wow!" He goes, "Well, we got a show to do out in California. Come, we'll give you the songs, you learn them at home, and then you come out and we'll rehearse them, and then we'll play the show at Knott's Berry Farm and see what you think." So I did that. Loved it. It was fantastic. Uh, I mean, we ripped. I mean, I was blown away. I'm looking over and there's Oz, and then, there's Tim and got Robert behind me with his hair and all that stuff going on. I was like, yeah, this is way cool. but unfortunately, they were sort of on their way down. They were kind of in a bad spot at that point. It was right after Against the Law, and Robert didn't really sell it to me like he should have because he was going through some things at the time, and I started really feeling bad because they worked so hard, and it looked like it might all be gone. And Bride was on the way up, so I was like, man, what do I do? So after consideration, prayer, and just seeing what the best fit was, I just told him I couldn't do it. Uh, so that's when Snakes was birthed out of that. And the Star Song, the record label, they decided to print up these flyers or the actual newspaper. And it says, "Is Dale leaving Bride for Striper? Is Dale the new singer of Striper?" And they were handing out these newspapers free at Cornerstone. Well, the funny thing was it was done on pretty cheap ink. And, a newspaper rubs off on you to begin with, if you hold it
Yeah.
too long. Well, we knew everybody at Cornerstone that year had seen that paper because everybody had ink smeared all over them. They'd come up for it to sign stuff. They had marks on their faces. So this newspaper was like coming off on their hands. It was on their
Oh
clothes.
no.
I was like, wow. But it generated a buzz that we needed. And that buzz put us back out playing again for a very long time. Yeah, and it's a great album. It was our time to shine, and we did.
How many do you know how many units you sold of that album?
I've heard anywhere between 150 and 200,000 records is
And
what I.
was that worldwide or just in the
Yeah,
US?
that's worldwide, and that's not everything that was bootlegged in Brazil because I was told that there was another 200,000 that sold in Brazil alone. Have you?
Wow.
Yeah. And I know that there was a lot of bootlegging going on because we would go down and see the booths that people were selling our merchandise and all the different covers for the Snakes in the Playground album. So they were just generating these Xerox companies and popping them in and selling them. So it was like, you know, and we had a good momentum coming out of Brazil because we kept making trips to Brazil over and over again.
What do you think it was about the Brazilian people there? They just liked something different or
One of the things was there there was a pastor down there. They call him Apostle. So the Apostle, he had a mega church and he had dozens of churches beneath him. So these churches pretty much did what he told them to do, and he had a radio station and a TV station. And if he said come to the show, they're coming to the show. But I think the expectations were not as high as what actually happened, because we were filling up soccer stadiums, and we played in Rio along the stretch at the very end where the Carnival stops, and man, there's thousands and thousands of people at that, and we did that for a long time, for many years. But I think it was the fact that we were always on TV in Brazil and we were always on the radio. So, it's just, you get to Brazil, you got a show to do, and you're driving down the road, and the guy's listening to the radio, and your song comes on. It's like, that's cool. We're on the radio. So I think it was a lot to do with that, and just that people in Brazil has good taste in music too. So I think that's another reason.
Yeah, a lot of bands do well over there, and must be there. The whole scene is different in Brazil, just like it's different over in Europe than here. And
Yeah.
what is it like from a songwriter to go out there with that many people out there?
No different than if there was 40. Probably. I never got nervous to play. Uh, I told him on an interview the other day, I never get nervous, I never get embarrassed, and I'm fearless. I have no fear of anything, and that's probably a bad thing.
That's
No,
probably
it's
bad.
yeah, it's like there's fight, but there's no flight, and the flight is what saves your life.
Yeah, that's I've seen your videos of it out there, and I'm like, that is crazy. Like,
I used
wow.
I used to do some nutty stuff back in the day, that's for sure.
you said one time there, people were asking you how you write lyrics, and you've got like just massive lyrics that you try and fit to whatever Troy's written. Has it always been that way, or in the early days where you try and write the whole song at once?
No, I would have bits and pieces on different pieces of paper, and I would have like a line like, I don't know, something that, psychedelic super Jesus. Like I wanted to use that. So I just start thinking, if I've written anything like that, oh yeah, yeah, I've written something here about, you know, uh, lyrics out of this other song. So I put these lyrics here, and now I need a rhyme for this to make sure it rhymes at the end. And but I didn't sit down like Bob Dylan and write a story from scratch, and then suddenly he's got poetry. I never
Yeah.
really considered my songs poetry. Maybe some of the solo stuff I did. I did an acoustic album as a solo artist called Acoustic Daylight, and it's more the Bob Dylan type stuff, where it's more like singing poems than it is just doing a bunch of one liners and waiting for the big chorus hook.
I'll throw out a few songs here. With Psychedelic Super Jesus, since we've been talking about that, whose idea was to bring in that talking bit at the end there where you're going, I don't know what a eucalyptus tree is, and oh man, it's a tie-dye all over again. And whose idea was to bring that talking bit in?
That was just something I was doing in the studio. I didn't even have it written down. So to do it live, I do it different every time because I don't know what I actually say there, except I don't know what a eucalyptus tree is. So I might mention a minivan from the day, the Beetle minivan with the sunflowers on it, and I'll mention something from the '60s during the thing that I'm talking about, but I don't. I just wait for the beat, so when I know it's four, I got to start doing the vocal build for the big crescendo, the big scream, and yeah, that I mean, I just fake that. So
I'll throw out a few songs here. If you've got stories behind them, where they came from, meaning behind them or whatever. Heroes, it was obviously a metaphor, is from what I took from it. And that scream at the end of the song, that's very eerie and kind of throws me off.
oh, the thing that ends the album, that
Yeah,
wasn't
that,
me. That
ah,
was the
ah.
producer. I had
Oh,
nothing
okay.
to do had nothing to do with it. There was an upright piano. There was a full-size baby grand, a full-size baby grand. There was a baby grand piano. It could have been full size. Anyway, it was sitting in a corner, turned up on its side, and he kept messing around with that thing, making creepy sounds with the strings. So after we mixed the album, we were mixing the album, but I had to leave before the mix was done. So when I got the album, I was as shocked as everybody else to hear that. And it was Armand John Petrie, uh, famed
Well,
Sixpence None the Richer Goo Goo Dolls guy, producer that he decided to do that. He called it the goats bleating.
what was that?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
wondering, was that
it
supposed to be a demon thrown into the abyss or something?
who knows? But it was too late. They'd already pressed the
Yeah,
albums.
you can't, I guess you can't bring it back,
Right.
reverse it, and no, it's done.
But yeah, so the song itself obviously was a metaphor. Is it metaphor of a spiritual battle then?
Yeah, it's just kind of like good and evil. It's like the short stories I write. A lot of it is good versus evil, or
Yeah.
just mental anguish because somebody's having a psychological breakdown and trying to find their way back. And a lot of times I bring in Bible references and the stories and stuff to that this person's trying to identify with the good rather than the bad. So, but yeah, and plus I was probably listening to a lot of Iron Maiden at the time, so I have a feeling that I was trying to do something like Number of the Beast or something like that. I don't know what I can't remember exactly, but I do know we were listening to a lot of Maiden and Bruce Dickinson is a history lesson every album. So
Right. Yeah, I like their stuff as well too. What album was that from? Too Tired off a Fistful of Bees.
um for me that was just like I'm tired of being duped. I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of you just because all the sheep are going this direction and I know we're supposed to be going the other direction and I'm not going to join these guys. I'm tired of you calling me a heretic and that just because I have a different uh theology than you do. So it's like I'm not falling for what it's kind of like fool me once. Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So yeah, it's won't be duped again.
What are your favorite songs to perform when you're out on stage?
I really like Hired Gun.
Yes, that's a good song.
Picture Perfect is a great song to do. It's a fun one, and I think Mama. I think if Mama is hitting on all eight cylinders, it really is a powerful song at the end of the night.
Can you tell us about Mama a little bit? How did that come about?
Oh, I could just envision because I was in LA at this point. I was seeing all the homeless people and you know, birds have their nests, foxes have their holes, I have no place to lay my head. And it just saw the in Los Angeles at the time, it was like pitiful. It was, you know, you got people driving Bentleys past people that have a piece of cardboard, you know, that they're laying on, you know, and it also serves as, hey, give me money, you know. So it was just trying to bring awareness to the homeless, to the unfortunate people of the world. I like the song "Help." It's the same concept, you know. How to weigh hell, city of cardboard boxes, lost her hope, you know. So I've always had this conviction that, you know, because Jesus basically said, you know, visit the poor and the widows and the orphans, and you know, I mean, that's real ministry, not going to church. Going to church isn't ministry. It's occupying a pew and giving 10% of your money to somebody you don't even know where your money's going. But if you know where your money's going, you buy somebody a hamburger and you're like, and that means more to them than if you say, here, let me tell you about Jesus. You gotta work in. You
Yeah.
know, you're not gonna save all the homeless people by preaching a word to them, because some of them know the word better than you do. So
Yeah, I think that's part of what Jesus wanted us to have, empathy for
yep.
others.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, and those are two great songs. Actually, I loved. Like I said, I actually enjoyed Drop when it came out. It was a different sound. Times are changing, but that was the way I could actually get into.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
let's jump into "Fuel on Fire" off of was Skin for Skin.
Yeah. Um, well, I did the song "I'm the Devil" from Drop, and I wanted a part 2 of that. So I came up with "Fuel and Fire" because it's about the devil singing, "I'm coming through town in my hot rod," and picking up as many souls as possible along the way. So the whole song is like when I sang the song "I'm the Devil," it was from the devil's point of view, and I did "Fuel and Fire," and I actually say this is part 2 of "I'm the Devil." I do actually say that in the song. You have to listen for it, but it's in there.
Yeah.
Right. I think you said too on Skin for Skin there was a follow up or sequel to All Hallows Eve. What song was that one, or was that Skin for
Oh, I
Skin
don't know.
song?
Oh, Hell's Eve. Oh, um, let's see. Well, we did, of course, Silence is Madness. I wanted to have actually, if it had been left up to me alone, I wanted more songs like Heroes and All Hallows Eve. I wanted these epic songs with these giant musical pieces, a lot of 20 guitars and stuff. I don't know which song that is though that you're talking about from
Yeah, I can't remember
that.
now if it was the song Skin for Skin or if it was another one. And I know you said one time when you're listening to music, and I feel the same way about this. That's why I bring it up. When you listen to music, you get more into the music than you do into the words. The chorus may be catchy and you may pick up on the chorus. The verse is not so
Yeah.
much. That's why I thought I'd run by what where some of these songs came from because I'm listening to them going, oh, I love the music. The music sounds great. Oh, here's the chorus, and then I'm going, now I'm not sure what the song's about. And sometimes in the production, the music overpowers the vocals. That's just the way it's produced. And I'm going, I don't unless I got lyrics in front of me, I'm not sure what's going on here, type of thing.
Well, when you take distortion and a kick drum and you throw it into like a cement mixer, it's like putting your head into the cement mixer and trying to sing and people hear you. To me, that's what heavy metal does. So I think all heavy metal albums need to come with a lyric sheet because I can't understand anything that anybody says.
Right.
And I'm one of those guys that pick up these lyrics in my head, and I've sang them my whole life only to realize they're not even close to being what I thought they were. Uh,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
with my songs, I don't wanna tell anybody what the song is really about. To me, it takes away from why I wrote it, but I wrote the song for everybody not for me. So it might have meant something to me at the time, but now I've handed it off. It's like handing off an adopted child. You hand this out to the masses, and it's up to them to decide if the song speaks to them or not. And everybody will have a different take on a song, which I think is very cool. It's like, you know, it's like a kaleidoscope. You got one eye to see in, but and it's all the same pieces, but all the pieces, every time somebody else looks into it, it changes. But it's all the same pieces, it just looks different. And that's what I like about not giving away why I wrote it, because why I wrote it might not be as significant. So
Well said, Dale.
Right. Or everybody can get what they want out of it.
if the song touches somebody, then that was my intent. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, well, one, at least maybe a couple more songs just to pick your brain on here. Because one song that always kind of threw me, especially from the title, I'm going, not sure where you're going with this, was Think I'll Build a Bomb.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Basically the whole song is just about I've given up. I don't want anything else. I might as well just build a bomb because that's what we're headed to anyway. Let's
Oh,
just
I
get it
see.
over with. What are we waiting on?
Right.
Yeah. That's why I wrote it, so I don't know what other people think.
When I heard it, I was like, I used to be a crisis line counselor, so I was like, Dale, do we need to have a chat?
Yeah. Well, I've
Just,
been pretty controversial, so that's pretty light on the controversial uh measurement. So
right. Yeah, I know, like say you were talking about you've got different theological views than the average Christian out there. And I think some people have walked away from being a Bride fan because of that. I'm not one
yeah.
to worry about that. You know, to me, it's got to be the music that grabs me. I still listen to secular music that a lot of people probably say would criticize me for listening to, but to me, good music is good music. So
Hey Dale, when you go and perform in churches, do the pastors come to you and say, "We don't want you to sing this song, or this song," or no? They just
No, because they would know if they knew anything about me, they would know that I would sing those songs. If they asked me not to sing them, I would sing them.
you would sing them. Okay,
I would have to,
that's
if I never
awesome.
knew
That's
them,
awesome.
we would learn them backstage and sing them. Yeah. So
Okay,
it's like,
okay.
what you see is what you get, that's that type of thing. So
So yeah, you spent many years in New Zealand, came back to States and started performing live. And what was it like getting back into the live and doing? I noticed with some of your set lists, it was more the older songs, mainly because I'm expecting that's what people wanted to hear. But what was it like getting back and actually singing some of those old songs live again?
it was something because I'd spent all those years only as a recording artist and not a stage artist. But stepping out on stage at Immortal Fest the first year, it was like we hadn't missed a beat. We just went out and we did our thing. But this past year, it was unfortunate. There was so much technical difficulty before we even started. To be honest with you, I was deflated before I got out on stage, and that's I was coming out. Me and Les Carlson were backstage. We're praying. I'm getting ready to go out. He's going to join me on stage, and 30 minutes standing there until they got whatever was messed up hooked back. The band lost. We lost our momentum that night, and then our set was cut short. So
Oh
that
no.
was yeah, because we went over. We were going to do 30 more minutes of music, for the people that paid to see us, and
Do
because
you know what happened? Like monitors
I think
blew? What?
I think the monitor guy didn't know what he was doing, and he changed when he was changing over. He pushed something, bumped something, unplugged something. But
Oh
anyway,
no.
Troy's on stage trying to. I could tell Troy was getting frustrated, and I'm back behind the curtain trying to make a grand entrance, and it was just kind of like everybody gathered around for the big hot air balloon to take off, and it takes off, but it drags the basket 600 yards before it lifts off. By the time it gets in the air, the most exciting part was them being dragged across the field. It wasn't about the balloon in the air, and that's the way I felt. I was like, man, this is like, and I could tell Les was worried too. Les kept looking at me like, what's going on? I'm
Are
like,
are
I
you
don't.
guys doing Immortal Fest this summer?
No, 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 we're not doing it. Uh, no, and it's fun because there's a lot of bands playing that I'm glad
Yeah.
they're playing. So yeah. Um, but yeah, that's I mean that's coming back was great. Yeah, and one of the reasons I came back, my wife actually mentioned it to me first. She mentioned that, "Would you like to go back and live in, the States?" And I was like, "Well, it's up to you, I moved here to be with you. If you wanna move to America to be with me, that's what we'll do."
Aw.
So, she was all for it, and we had this master plan, which completely got railroaded and messed up. Not to go into a lot of detail, but nothing happened like we thought it was going to happen, and it did not happen in a timely manner, and we got strung along so long, uh, literally losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over time. Um, we made the move. We come back, and thank God Troy had a place. Troy, we stay with Troy for so 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was, before we got into this house here. But I was hoping to come back and tour. That was one of the reasons coming back. I thought we'd come back, not like tour 100 dates, but do ten dates at a time. I knew I was drawing my Social Security, so that gonna had income coming in. And I thought, well, we'll just do these shows. It'd be a good supplemental, uh, for the family. Well, 10, 20 shows or whatever. But the shows just didn't manifest. And we did play overseas. Act like it's uh like things didn't happen great. I mean, they did happen great. I mean, we toured with Petra when I got back. We toured with Striper when we got back. We played a few shows, but like right now, there's nothing really to talk about. And, when you put post out and you're like, "Hey, Brian's booking, um, for a tour," and one promoter contacts you, it's like, "Dale, take a hint." So, so that's sort of what I'm doing. I'm not just taking a hint, I'm bowing out at the end of this year. But, and I would go back and play Brazil again. I go back and play Costa Rica again. Those guys were fantastic. I'd play Mexico again before we're done. But if they want us, they'll have to get us because after all said and done, it's going to take a lot of money to get me up out of this chair and out of this house. So, uh, and I know it's not about money, but I've served my time. It's like being in
You
prison.
you need it to live. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 20 years to life, right, for a prisoner, right, and then he gets out after 20 years in some states. That's considered a life sentence. I've done 2 life sentences with Brad. So,
Mm.
hey, I don't owe anybody anything anymore. I've done my time.
Wh
But our ideal was to come back and find a nice quiet place out in the country, which we are out in the country. It's not as quiet as it needs to be. We got a kid. He obviously got a motorbike for his, birthday. But anyway, but other than that, and we're just, we're in this house and we're going to stay here until we see what God wants to do with us. I've got a garden started in my kitchen. I got a table, and my onions have come up. My tomatoes have come up. I got all these ghost peppers coming up. So it'll be a fun summer for me doing some gardening. That's going to be my main focus, I think.
That's gonna keep you busy. Yeah.
Well, that's what's next for Dale, I guess. Wrap up Bride, do a few shows, wrap up a few recordings, and then carry on with your writing, I guess. Hey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
wish you all the best in your gardening and, you know, and your other endeavors that you're doing. Sure.
well, yeah. I mean, I've got my book deal. I've released 6 books. I've got 3 more coming out this year. They'll be out in by July. I've been taking pre-orders for those. Anybody interested in reading? They're not Christian books, but they do have a lot of biblical references and scriptures, and I always introduce a religious figure in there. And I've got one book that is a Christian fiction book. It's called A Testament of Rust. It's a novel, and it's quite good. It's very interesting about a dystopian world and what they're trying to do to bring revival to a city that is kind of like 1984, Orwell type stuff. Because I was always a fan of sci-fi, and then for whatever reason, I started writing like horror stuff, which isn't like blood and gore, but it's spooky stuff. dark and stormy night, suddenly a shot rang out, the door slammed, the maid screamed. You know, then you just take it from there. And that was a reference to Peanuts anyway. Most people will miss that. Uh, but yeah, I just want to. I mean, my ideal life would be to be a writer full time and stop for pee breaks and to eat dinner and spend time with my wife and my dogs.
So you think after this you're done being a rock star?
Yeah, I want to do some more recording with some guys that I've already obligated myself to. I'm not saying that I wouldn't come back and do a show if it made sense, but I don't think anybody's going to be able to afford me because once I stop, my price goes way up. So it's because I'm tired of traveling, and you know I'm literally tired of it. It's and like you mentioned earlier about the fun. I mentioned to my wife the other day. I said I don't really have fun anymore because I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier than that, and I go right to the computer, and I've already got an idea for a story or finishing up a story, so I start typing on it, and then I type till my wife gets up. She goes to work. I type all day. Uh, Deal with my dogs. Got a couple of fox terriers, which needs a lot of babying, and yeah, and then I start submitting them to podcasts, short stories to be read by podcasters, and I was very successful in that until that guy with the fake band didn't want to work with him no more. The guy with the AI band swearing up and down it was really him singing. I'm like, yeah, right. So that was a bit of money there that I'm not going to be making, but I'm sending it out to my stories out to other podcasts, and I think I'm going to do some more Christian books and just finance them myself so that I can get them out there. I've written about 20 novels. About 15 of those are Christian novels, and it's harder to get into the book world. The publishing company that I'm with now, Velox Books, they only do horror. They don't want my Christian stuff. They don't even want my sci-fi stuff. They want my short stories and the horror because it's working. And there's enough interest in that, I guess, to keep going. And that's why, I mean, I'm online. You probably see me every day promoting my books because all I need for people to do, you know, I got 7,000 supposed followers on my Facebook. Just buy one book. You don't have to buy them all. Buy one book, and that'll send a message to the publisher that I'm relevant, and he'll keep producing my stuff. But it's like asking 7,000 people for a dollar. Can you spare a dollar? And at the end of
Yeah,
the
that's
day, you
$7,000.
make $7.
Right.
So,
Wow. Huh.
yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for talking with us once again, Dale.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. We appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I've always been about Jesus and Him crucified, buried, resurrected, His return,
Amen.
and that's what I'll always be about, and that's what I want to leave with people. I don't want anybody to remember Dale Thompson. I don't want anybody to remember Bride. All I want them to remember is, you know, there was a guy and a band. I can't remember who they were, but they talked about Jesus, and it changed my life. All I want them to remember is Jesus, because that's all that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter about our theologies. It doesn't matter about what kind of music we listen to or anything. Do you
Yeah.
know Christ as your Lord and personal Savior? Because I would not want to go through the world without Him. It would be the most miserable existence ever.
You
Yeah.
mentioned earlier in your conversation about trying to make your songs sound like Metallica. Was there ever a time where you wanted to get that kind of writing into Bride?
Oh, sure. I think anybody that plays heavy metal, they pretty much owe it to two bands, Black Sabbath and Metallica.
Mhm.
All the other bands that came after were mimicking them in some way that's playing heavy. Uh, I think the Black Sabbath with Ozzy, and even though I'm a Dio fan, and I did really like Ozzy, especially at the end. Yeah, that's the two bands right there. Anybody who's an aspiring heavy metal guy, go get you a Black Sabbath album, go get you a Metallica album, and that's all you need to know. That's how you get started.
I've been in both of those, so yeah, it sounds like a good recommendation.
How do you deal with the lyrics that Metallica writes? Is that the only
I'm not.
issue, like from a
I
songwriting?
I don't know that many of their lyrics, but the lyrics that I have listened to are I don't see anything vile in their lyrics, you know? I see, like, if I listen to Poison or Motley Crue,
Oh
It's
yeah,
all chicks, and these dudes are 60 years old singing about underage girls. There should be a law against that.
yeah.
Metallica's I think got more meat on the plate than what those bands do. You know, they actually sing about uh, important things, whether you agree with them or not. You know, I even look back at the early Black Sabbath, and Geezer Butler wrote lot of those lyrics, and he was very moved by faith in those days. Matter of fact, that first Black Sabbath album is probably closer to a Christian rock album than people would imagine it is.
Yeah, and then even on the third one with the song "Natural Forever," it's probably one of the best written songs ever, I think.
Oh yeah, it's hard to imagine that somebody can write that to get perfect songs, like a Stairway to Heaven. I mean, and that was the only song Zeppelin ever did. It sounded like that. They had to stop doing what they were doing and write something completely different for it to be that song that every guitar player wanted to learn, and every music store had a sign up that said "No Stairway to Heaven."
That
All
yeah,
right.
that song classic. Yeah.
With
Yeah.
that, like I said, I think that kind of comes to the end of our time. But thanks for joining us once again.
Oh,
Thanks,
thanks,
Dale.
Scott. Thank you so
God
much. It's been
bless. Have a
fun.
good one.
Yeah.